What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Sports Nerds podcast. The NFL draft was last night, and Dawson and I decided that we're going to do two podcasts in 1 week. And I guess it makes up for all the weeks that we've kind of missed over the past couple months. But it was a very, very entertaining NFL draft. I saw some looking at Dawson's mock draft, you did a good job, honestly, of picking certain players to go to certain teams.
Just
It was
wrong number pick.
just wrong numbers.
Yes.
So that's what I was sitting with my brother Noah, and we were watching the NFL draft, and he's like, Dawson did a good job. Not gonna lie, picking out who's going where. It was just the order was wrong because given what you predicted, it made sense given the storylines of the draft heading into it. It was the shocker of how little teams were actually wanting, or maybe teams were willing to give up their picks or wanting to move up to get those players.
Right. I thought for sure that Minnesota was going to trade up to 5 and get McCarthy, but hey, they ended up staying I guess they traded up to 10 with the Jets, but they ended up getting their guy in McCarthy. We didn't really have a whole lot of trades in this draft. I mean, the Vikings made a few trades. Kansas City made a trade. The Lions made a trade. Oh, I'm trying to remember who else exactly made a trade. Panthers traded back in the first round. Cowboys traded down. Bills traded out of the first round. So not as many trades as I thought were going to happen.
I completely agree. And the ones that were made, as of right now, who knows in a couple years how these picks land out, but they weren't eye-opening or oh, that was a major move or anything like that. The thing that shocked me for sure was how many quarterbacks were actually taken in the first round. I think both you and I had Caleb, Jaden, and Drake going 1, 2, and 3. But Michael Penix and Bo Nix both got their names called. And we can dive into the whole Penix situation with the Falcons in a little bit. But what are your thoughts on 5 quarterbacks getting taken in the first round?
6.
Who am I forgetting? JJ McCarthy. That's because I don't
know. We tend to forget about him sometimes. But when the first 6 out of 12 picks of the draft were quarterbacks, I knew that the draft was going to fall favorably for any of the teams in the back half of the draft, just because teams that needed wide receivers or offensive linemen were really going to benefit for all the quarterback needy teams. We obviously knew Caleb and Jaden and presumably Drake were going 1, 2, 3, like you said. No one saw Penix going to 8 at the Falcons, and their reasoning is a little wild for me. I like Kirk Cousins a lot. I don't know why you're drafting a guy like Penix at 8 and benching him for 2 years, essentially, when he's already 24, going to be 25 this year. So unless you're that confident in Penix, being your guy after Cousins, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. And then the Broncos.
Did you see the video of the GM right here after trying to explain it to the owner? I'm not going to lie, it kind of looked like he was he was the only one. Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like he was the only one that really knew that this was going to happen. Look at the faces in the background. Interesting situation for Atlanta. And like you mentioned, Penix is going to be 28, 29 by the end of Kirk Cousins' contract. Not saying that Kurt will make it all 4 years in Atlanta, but he's getting $100 million guaranteed no matter what, whether he finishes those 4 years or not. If you're Kirk Cousins, how do you feel? How do you feel about this? I know reports have come out that said that he's a little stunned that this happened. So obviously he didn't know that this was going to happen either. How do you feel going into this year when you basically told them that you're going to probably end your career here?
Yeah, if you're Kirk, I'd be stunned, shocked. Upset is not the right word, because I think obviously if Kirk comes back healthy this year, I think he's going to start this year, maybe next year. But man, if you're the Falcons, when you could have had any pick of defensive players on the board, or even you could have taken Rome Odunze and just loaded up on your wide receiver talent, but instead you go with the guy that you're going to park for a few years. I think it was someone that I saw on Twitter that was saying it's like the Packers situation, but the difference is the Packers had Rodgers for 15 years, and Rodgers had shown some signs of slowing down. Kirk is still a great quarterback, And not to mention the fact Penix was a top 10 pick. When they did that with Rodgers and with Jordan Love, they were in the late 20s. So I don't know. I feel like you definitely could have had Penix later on in the draft, and you didn't have to take him at 8. But hey, if it turns out, if we look back in 3 or 4 years and Penix is a top 10 quarterback, I'll eat my words on it. But as of right now, I don't know what the Falcons were doing last night.
It's just it blows my mind. It's just, I was waiting for the NFL is not as consistent with this compared to the NBA, but I was waiting for the Penix got drafted, then they cut over to the booth people at the table, whether you were watching Pat's show or the College Game Day crew. By the way, Nick Saban on the College Game Day crew is going to be fun to listen to all year.
Mhm.
I was a little worried because he didn't seem like someone that always likes talking a lot to the media or like wanting to be in the media, but he's all in on the media now. Now that he's not coaching, which I mean, when you don't have to worry about the questions being asked to you, I guess it kind of changes it. But
Mhm.
I was waiting for as of right now, Atlanta drafted Michael Penix Jr., but we're waiting for a confirmation on a trade to Oakland, Las Vegas, or something like that. And I was just waiting for he might be on the move, or even heck, even Kurt being on the move, because it just doesn't make sense to draft this guy. The Jordan Love situation, like you mentioned, made total sense for Green Bay. I personally feel that way, and it's starting to pan out now that Aaron Rodgers is gone and that Love has been able to get into the system. You just signed a guy for 140 mil,
I
100
think it
mil
was
guaranteed,
180 over 4, wasn't it?
180. So you don't just throw that money around like that. You don't have money to just waste right now, especially when some of your players are on rookie contracts getting ready for an extension. And I don't know, this just didn't seem like a good move. My brother was trying to convince me that they should have taken Brock Bowers here and done a 2 tight end set, which I mean, I get the idea of having 2 powerful tight ends, but I don't think it works in the NFL versus it being able to work in the college football, because we've seen success with 2 great tight ends in college football, just not translating over to the NFL. They, I think they probably should have went right wide receiver here, or like you mentioned, defense, but they went with Penix either way, and it it is what it is. I know most people would start their draft recap talking about the number 1 overall pick, but it was pretty much
We've known that for 4 months now.
exactly. And this was the only thing out of the entire draft really that really shocked me. There was other ones where I was like, "Ooh, interesting picks," but this one was like, "What?" But that's just my opinion.
This one and then Bowers getting drafted to the Raiders was like head
Yep.
scratching for me. Because Bowers is a great player. It's just the Raiders took a tight end in the second round last year in Michael Mayer, who played well last year. And for them to go tight end 2 years in a row with 2 premium picks is kind of wild. Again, when the first 14 picks of this draft were all offense. So if you're at that 13 or 14 spot, you could have had any of your pick of defensive players. And then we saw a run on defensive players in the back half of the first round with corners and edge rushers and guys like that. But that was another one where it's kind of head scratching. Obviously, the Broncos, I don't know what they're doing. I'm glad they took Bo Nix because not sure what he's going to amount to be.
I
I don't
mean,
know if Sean Payton sees Drew Brees in him or what, but
I mean, they traded. So it was funny that we were talking about whether Zach Wilson would be on the Jets or not on, what was it, Monday that we did our show?
something like that, yeah.
I think it was on Monday. And literally 3 hours after we ended our show,
Hmm.
Zach gets traded to Denver. So ending the Zach Wilson era in New York, which, I mean, I don't know if you call that a good era or not,
What an
but
era.
what an
What
era.
an era.
But then they draft Bo Nix in the draft, which I, for one, have been on record saying that Bo Nix could be the steal in the quarterback position of the NFL draft, but I didn't expect him to go number 12. I didn't expect him to go to the first round. I am honestly shocked. So either Denver knew that the Raiders probably would take him if he was available at their pick, or I, I I'm a little shocked. I'm not shocked that he ended up in Denver. I'm just shocked that they spent a first round pick to get him.
So it sounds like I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw a couple Broncos reporters on my feed, and it sounds like they had Bo Nix as their quarterback 3 in the draft. They had Caleb as number 1, Jaden as number 2, and Bo was right there at 3. He was higher than Drake May, higher than JJ McCarthy, higher than Michael Penix. So I feel like that's why Denver just stuck at 12 and picked. I know in my mock I had them trading with the Eagles and getting back and still ending up with Knicks. But you're right. Who knows if a team would have leapfrogged them and taken Knicks? Because do you really want to go a full year with your quarterback room of Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Ben DiNucci? Probably not. So now you can probably start Stidham for a little bit and then work Bo Nix in. Or maybe Bo Nix is good enough to start
I think
week
he's going to
one.
start week 1. I just think that quarterback room is so bad right now, and he's an older quarterback for sure heading into his rookie season. Let me look at his
I think he's the same age as Penix, 24.
24. So I don't know if there's any time to waste. At the same time, there isn't really. I don't know. You can give your opinion too, but like I don't think there's a quarterback in that room that could be used as a mentor for him. So
No.
right now, his best mentor is his head coach,
Mm-hmm.
and probably getting snaps week 1 is probably the best option for him. I truly believe that if given the right talent around him, he could have a very good career. Now, whether or not the Broncos will be able to do that, we'll see. And in that division, we'll see even more. I mean, who would have thought that you would have been right about the Chargers taking an offensive lineman, though?
Dude, I definitely didn't see that coming. I definitely thought that they were going with. Honestly, when Marvin went off the board, I definitely thought it was a trade. But when it was not a trade, I was like, I have no idea what the Chargers are doing. I don't know if they're going with neighbors. I don't know if they're going with all. I saw a couple mocks like yesterday before the draft saying Latham going as high as 5. But yeah, that was a good pick by the Chargers. As much as I hate saying that, but the
Yeah,
Broncos and Raiders.
the
I,
Chargers
I,
took Joe Alt, and I'll tell you, I actually have a friend that's a Chargers fan. They do exist. I will say that. I
I've
have
never
now
seen one.
known 2 people in my life who are Chargers fans. One of them is no longer a Chargers fan when they moved to Los Angeles, and which I mean, I get. I think he just doesn't like Los Angeles teams, so he just
Mhm.
decided to move. Which I mean, he went to the freaking Jaguars, but that wasn't necessarily a much better of an upgrade or whatever when you look at the franchise. But my buddy who is a Chargers fan currently, I got sent a video of his reaction. He is not happy. Not happy.
Really?
Yes. Chargers fans, at least from his perspective, want a wide receiver. Because let's be honest, who is Herbert gonna throw to this year?
No one. No one as of right now.
And so the fact that they went offensive lineman, which makes sense with the coach and Harbaugh that they have, it makes sense to go offensive lineman. But I also get the perspective of they have no one to throw to next year. Quentin Johnston is their number 1 guy when you look at their receivers. And college, if it was TCU, I'd be like, "Oh, they still got Quentin Johnston, they'll be fine." This isn't TCU anymore. This is the NFL where they have to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who have arguably one of the better defenses in the league.
This reminds me of when Jamar Chase was in his draft class, and there was that Bengals meme where it was like, we take Penei Sewell and Joe Burrow can block, but there's no receiver to throw to. Or they take Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow can't get blocks, but they can throw it down the field. If you've seen that meme and people know what I'm talking about, I'll have to send Brock the picture. But that's what reminds me of the Chargers if they when them taking an offensive lineman. It's like, yeah, they got protection now with Sean Slater, Joe Alt, and a couple new offensive linemen in the offseason. But you're right. Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer. I couldn't tell you another receiver on that team. No more Austin Eckler either. Like, whew.
It's gonna be a interesting season for them to say the least. I think that they might probably be in this top 5 position next year. I feel very confident that they're not going to be outside the top 10 based off of their finish in the NFL this upcoming season. And I guess That's what you get when you get a coach that likes offensive linemen and kind of running the ball a little more than throwing it. Maybe Harbaugh knows something about next year's class where they could get a running back or two that could help them. I mean, Gus Edwards isn't terrible, and they got J.K. Dobbins too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that their running back room's terrible. Given the history of their running back room, though, you can't guarantee that they're going to be playing all year. Because I know it's just one ACL tear or one Achilles tear, but once you tear it once, you're automatically labeled the rest of your career a hazard on the football field. So Joe Alt was the pick there. I mean, we can go back through the 1 through 4. Caleb Williams goes to the Bears. Shout out the Bears though for giving him another weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And Roma Dunze from Washington, right?
Yeah. They
And
easily have the best trio receivers in the league now.
I'm telling you that I like the Chicago Bears to win the NFC North next year.
I agree. And whatever their Vegas win total is, I think is you easily put the over. And I'm not giving gambling advice, but that's how I kind of feel. That's how I look, how Vegas feels about certain teams. Because typically that's what the majority of people feel about certain teams. But I think the Bears win total was only like 8.5 or 9.5. That seems like I feel like they're going to go at least 10-7 or 11-6. Just because A, that team is really good. They've gotten a lot better over the last 2 off seasons. B, you get the best franchise quarterback to come in since Andrew Luck. And C, you're surrounding him with weapons and talent. Yes, the offensive line might be a little bit of a concern, but that's why there's today the second and third rounds, and then Saturday there's the 4th through 7th rounds of the draft to address those needs.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. And Caleb's all in on the Bears, man. He said the Bears probably like 50 times last night. This team, man. The Texans and the Bears, man. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like those two might be the future of the NFL. Granted, to be the man, you have to beat the man. And your Kansas City Chiefs, man, they just keep rebuilding, retooling. They got exactly who you wanted. Is this who you wanted?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
give us your thoughts.
Xavier Worthy, I mocked him in a couple of our drafts with our shows. Obviously, we all know he ran the fastest 40 at the combine ever, 4.21. That's not what's funny about this to me. The funniest part with me is them trading with the Buffalo Bills to go up and get a receiver, considering the Bills are a wide receiver needy team. I think the Bills would have learned their lesson by now, trading with the Chiefs on draft night. I mean, that's how they got the guy on the left and the guy on the right. Just saying. Maybe the Bills should be wary of picking up phones from Brett Veach. But I love the pick. Obviously, it's another wide receiver, another weapon. Now you pair Hollywood Brown, whatever we get of Rashee Rice, Travis Kelsey, Pacheco, and now Xavier Worthy. I think this is probably the best group of weapons Mahomes has had since his last year with Tyreek. I think it's no doubt about that.
Why do you guys just always have to like find a way to like rebuild, retool? And it's not fair, man. Some teams like struggle to even make the playoffs.
You got the number one wide receiver prospect in the last 20 years. I don't know.
I mean,
well, 20 is a stretch because Calvin Johnson, but last 10 years.
I mean, yeah, Marvin Harrison and Kyler. For those that can't see, there's Kyler there on the bottom right. Marvin Harrison gets drafted to Arizona, and this photo was too funny not to show. But I love the pick. I also was convinced. I was okay. Like your mock draft on Monday that we had, you had Arizona trading out of the 4 spot, and I was okay with it, honestly. I mean, they would have probably gotten a Dunze and a couple other guys, and I feel like they still would have been fine. But hey, I'm not going to complain when you get the number 1 wide receiver prospect in the NFL draft, number 1, or I guess like you mentioned, Calvin Johnson, number 2 wide receiver prospect in the last 20 years. So Kyler and Marv, I knew Marv was going right after Kyler tweeted out earlier in the day that it's going to be a good day. because I don't think he would tweet that out and then the Cardinals go offensive lineman or something like that.
No.
Which, I mean, quarterbacks should be happy for offensive linemen, but let's be honest, Kyler wants weapons to throw to because they need weapons to throw to. So he's got one, and Harrison. I don't know where this team is going to go. They did go edge rusher late in the first round, which I thought was fine. I was interested to see if they would attack on Cooper DeJean being available, which, I mean, we can talk about that too, with Cooper DeJean not being a first rounder. But as a whole, Arizona, as an Arizona fan, got my Cardinals gear on right now. Not mad, not I'm a little excited, not overly excited, because I mean, this team isn't going to still be amazing or anything. They still have a lot of work to do to be able to build something around Kyler, but it's a good stepping stone. I will say I feel better heading into this year than I did last year. Last year I knew the season was over before it even started. And now having Marv, I mean, I don't know if, and I would have to go back and like watch his tape a little more, but I've seen a lot of comparisons to him and Fitzgerald, and I don't know if that's because of he's actually very similar to how Fitzgerald plays, or if it's just because he's going to Arizona and Arizona doesn't have a wide receiver and they need that stud that can just do whatever. But yeah, happy that Marvin Harrison's a Cardinal.
One comp that I saw that also played for the Cardinals was AJ Green
I'll
for
take
Marvin
that.
Harrison
I'll
Jr.
take that.
And I don't know if people understand like how good prime AJ Green was with that Cincinnati team with Andy Dalton and guys like that. So I think you guys aced the draft so far, like you said. Or I'll say this: everyone's first reaction after the draft with their team is they either love their pick, like what I'm doing right now, or they absolutely hate their pick. But here's what I would warn everyone is just wait till Sunday, wait till the draft is done to really give your full opinion, because as Chiefs, they could make a couple picks where I'm like scratching my head, like, what are we doing? But if you're a Packers fan, who I know Packers fans weren't happy with their pick last night, or if
That was
you're,
great, by the way, that reaction from that Packers fan.
yeah, that that was hilarious. Or just any team that you're like, oh, don't like that guy, or wish we didn't take that guy. We still have 6 more rounds, 200 something picks of this draft, so that's what I'd be careful to people.
And for those that are like complaining about why certain people haven't been drafted yet, I will say the reason certain people have fallen, Cooper DeJean, we mentioned him. Cooper DeJean, I feel like the reason he fell to the second round is because no one traded up for those quarterbacks. Because no one had to trade up for those quarterbacks, there wasn't a push to get rid of some prospects off the board. And because of that, the corners that were supposed to probably go in the early teens were falling to the 20s, which resulted in Cooper kind of getting pushed out, as well as other good prospects. I mean, Kool McKinstry from Alabama is still available as well. So I think it was a interesting night, and because of the trade situation where a lot of the trades happened in the back half of the draft, it favored those that were like not worried, I guess, teams that I think would have traded up for a corner to actually not have to worry about trading up for those positions.
Right, like when the draft went 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, that threw everything off because that's 2 more picks of quarterbacks that we didn't think were going to happen. At least me, I thought Penix could get drafted at the end. I certainly didn't think Bo Nix was drafted on Thursday. I didn't think that was happening, but lo and behold. But that kind of threw everything off. That's 2 other positional players that couldn't get drafted with whether that's a wide receiver, an offensive tackle, or a corner, or something like that.
I mean, I don't know if we've talked much about JJ getting drafted to Minnesota. What are your thoughts on this? So I can't. The games I've watched JJ, he hasn't done much where it's like unbelievable in my eyes. And I mean, most of the time, when I watch JJ McCarthy, it's when no offense, it's when he's handing the ball off against Iowa, and that's pretty much all I remember of JJ's college career. And I mean, good performance ish against Alabama in the college football playoff his senior year. But he goes to the Vikings. Vikings have a new quarterback. Do you think he starts week 1? Do you think Sam Darnold's going to be the guy to start out?
I think
And what do you
Darnold's
think?
there.
What? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
What do
you're
you
good.
think it means for Justin Jefferson?
Well, I'll start with the Jefferson part first. Jefferson's still looking for his new deal. Hopefully, if you're the Vikings, you're hoping he's happy with them getting a quarterback. It shows that they're going in the right direction. Yes, they might struggle this year with him playing a little bit, but if you're Justin, you have to look like, hey, it's better for us to draft JJ and struggle this year than just keep bouncing from veteran quarterback to veteran quarterback like Sam Darnold or whoever the next guy's going to be. I do think McCarthy is going to be good with the Vikings. Considering what Kirk was able to do with the Vikings and the amount of weapons that they have, I mean, we talk about Chicago having like the most ready team for a rookie quarterback. I would argue that Minnesota's probably slightly higher when considering they have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison,
Point.
TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, a solid offensive line. I think that any rookie quarterback can go in there and succeed. I think JJ's mobility is what's really going to keep him away from pressure, and it's going to help the Vikings out a lot because that's one thing they struggled with last year. Is once Kirk went down, they didn't really have a mobile quarterback other than a few moments from Josh Dobbs. So I don't know. I'm not in love with this pick. I knew, like, I kind of figured this would happen because the Vikings were one of the most desperate teams to get a quarterback. But overall, don't hate it, don't love it, but just kind of a good pick for the Vikings.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I would have went with Bo. I don't know why. I just think Bo Nix has the potential to be something really good, and I feel like him and Justin Jefferson would have been a better duo than JJ and Justin Jefferson. Well, I guess JJ and JJ, which I guarantee you that gets milked way too much by
It will,
announcers. But
especially since his number J Justin Jefferson's is 18 and McCarthy's is 9. With the numbers, it's like half. Yeah, they're gonna find a way with
announcers are going to
something.
love talking about that
Yeah.
all game long.
hmm
But anything from the first round though that you still want to go over? I mean, we mentioned the upset Packers fan about taking the offensive lineman. I think a lot of Packers fans, maybe it's because I know a lot of Hawkeye Packers fans wanted Cooper DeJean there. They obviously went offensive line. Uh, Credit to the Bengals getting another offensive lineman to help Joe Burrow out because he needs it. Of course, one of your mock drafts earlier in the year had Brock Bowers going to Cincinnati. I started thinking that it was going to happen because of how much he was dropping, but like you mentioned, the Raiders took a chance on him. Anything else from the first round that you want to go over?
Man, there's a lot of good prospects left that available in round two. Like we've touched on a couple times, Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's a bunch of wide receivers that are still available. So if your favorite team didn't get a wide receiver in the first round, I wouldn't be too worried because this wide receiver class is the deepest in years. There's still guys like A.D. Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Lad McConkey, who's one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Like, there's still talent that can be had in the second round. Um, when it comes to draft winners for me, I think the Vikings, you have to throw them up there. The Bears, you have to throw them up there because both teams got quarterbacks that they need. And in the Bears case, they got the wide receiver that can help out Caleb. And the Vikings, they got, I think, the best defensive player in the draft at 17, which I think is a
That
home
shocked
run
me
pick.
that he fell that far.
Right. So those two are my for sure winners. And then my losers, I'd probably have to go with the Falcons, even though that one could come to bite me later on.
Oh, I'll go on record and say that was a loser for them.
And then the other one, it's got to be the Packers. I know that they need an offensive line, but maybe that's just my bias as an Iowa fan. That was the most perfect fit that was out there. But what do you do?
I mean, it's the Packers, man.
Yeah.
I'm not upset that
As my
I'm
buddy
not a
who's as my buddy who's a Packers fan told me, he's like the Packers never take the guy you think they're going to take. It's always some random. They end up being good most of the time, but the guy you want them to take is never the guy they're going to take.
I mean, who's the team? Was it the Seahawks that always used to trade out of the first round
Think so,
with
yeah.
Pete Carroll?
hmm
But those teams, I'm telling you, teams have certain like traditions where like things that just always happen, like the Cardinals picking in the top 10. But
The Chiefs trading with the Bills for great players. I mean,
dude, just doesn't make any sense. That franchise is so stupid. They have hit one home run, I really think, in the draft, and that's Josh Allen. And like outside of that, they've made some really dumb decisions.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, okay, so we had 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Who 1 through 6? Who do you think does it go that rankings for you on how you think their careers are going to pan out, or do you?
Ooh. Um, it's close, but probably not. I think Caleb's going to finish as the best because I think he's in the best situation, and I think he's the best prospect. I like Drake May more than Jaden Daniels. I think Drake May is the closest thing you're going to get to Josh Allen in this draft. Jaden Daniels concerns me with his how slim he is, but man, he's a good runner. Man, he's a good thrower. So I'd probably have Daniels at 3. Probably McCarthy at 4, Penix 5, Nick 6. Almost how they
Boo,
went.
boo.
Yeah, I know it's kind of boring, but just look at situations. I think McCarthy's going to do really well with Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson, and I think Penix isn't going to see the field for 2 years, and Bo Nix is in an awful situation with Denver. Maybe that Payton can make some magic, but I just don't really see it.
It's gonna, yeah. Really, outside of like Caleb being number 1, it could. I think I could see it literally going any way, shape, or form. I'm interested to see what the first season of Drake May in New England will look like, because New England, that the cupboard's almost bare there. They have literally gutted their roster since Brady's left. They've kind of went in full rebuild mode. What do you expect from Drake May year 1?
Some growing pains for sure. I think he's one of the younger quarterback prospects in this draft. I think
Dude
he's only
looks like he was
21.
12
Yeah.
when he got drafted. It looks like he was 12 going through first communion
Hmm.
last night when he was walking to the stage with his suit on and everything.
Yeah, so he's definitely going to have some growing pains. Who's the starter right now for New England? Bailey Zappi? Is that who is probably going to start games week 1?
You think so?
I I guess I have no idea. It's too
See,
early for me to tell
see,
if he's going to start week 1.
you know what your franchise, the Kansas City Chiefs, have done? It has completely destroyed rookie quarterbacks, because it's always like, if someone gets drafted, well, how many weeks until he starts? Not, this guy's a
Yeah.
week 1 starter. Because of
Yeah.
how good that year of development was for Mahomes, it seems like outside of maybe the number 1 overall pick and maybe the second quarterback taken, even sometimes the second quarterback taken, it's how long does this guy sit until he actually starts? And it's because of how well the Kansas City Chiefs managed their quarterback situation at that time. The difference is that all these teams, the Vikings, um, the
Falcons.
Broncos, the Patriots, Alex Smith that last year with the Chiefs blows all their who would be starting quarterbacks that aren't rookies out of the water. So like
Yeah.
the Chiefs, it makes sense. Other teams, there's not really time to waste, because you're just wasting a year with a terrible quarterback.
That's fair. That's fair. I can get that. Um I don't know. I just think there's some growing pains with Drake May. I don't know if he's the most ready NFL guy. I think he's got the traits. I think he's got the ability and the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in the league in the future. But I think the first half season could be rough depending on. Now, if New England adds talent later in this draft, like extra offensive linemen, receivers, running backs, guys like that, I think that could change my opinion a little bit. I'm sure we'll do an episode to wrap up the entire draft. But we'll see. We'll see. I really like Drake May. I think he's going to do well, but maybe not this first year. Maybe it might be a little slow to start.
So I was, and I have a meeting at like 11ish, so we'll end this episode a little earlier than usual. But we would talk about AJ Brown's deal. We'll talk about that next week probably.
Mhm.
But let's get to the jerseys that we wanted to talk about of the
Yes.
Texans.
The latest segment of We're rating jerseys. I don't know the name of the segment, but
Well,
we've been doing it the last 3 episodes.
We'll have to come up with a name, but like
Yes.
I'm telling you, man, these are some of the best redesign, rebrand jerseys I've seen in a while.
Yeah. My favorite is the red.
These
Those are my
with
favorite.
the
The
horns.
red helmet.
I
That
like
is
the move of like putting the horns like a part of the helmet. I think they should
yes.
have just went that in general with the rest of their looks.
And a hot take, I'm not a fan of the H-Town ones.
Oh, really?
I'm not a huge fan of those.
It gives me Houston Renegades vibes.
Kind of. That's I don't know. I don't like the
Let me
red
look up.
numbers and the I don't know.
Oh, I
Something's
guess
not.
not Houston. Arlington Renegades.
Maybe
Um,
those jerseys will grow on me, but I don't know.
Arlington in the UFL has like a similar color scheme, and that's what it looked like at first. I think they look cool.
Mhm.
I get the little gist of like what they were trying to do with the Oiler blue
Mhm.
addition to their jerseys. I don't hate them. I'm not gonna lie. For being honest, the helmets I don't like their regular helmets. I don't really like these. I
Are they black or are they still dark
That's why I'm
blue?
trying to like here. I can look on Twitter, but like I
They
don't.
look dark blue to me. Well, maybe
Yes,
I'm colorblind.
they look dark blue to me too, and I mean that's what their normal like look
I was gonna say,
is.
did they even change their helmet?
I don't think so, and I think they need to because I hate them. I'm telling you, they should have done the red look with but just inverted the color. I think that helmet design is amazing, and it was a great move by them. These are gonna pop on TV. They're gonna look
Hmm.
great. The Houston H Town look, I think they're cool. I
Hmm.
they're they're a little cheesy, but sometimes cheesy is good, and so I think I think they'll grow on people who don't like them at first. The rest of their regular jerseys, I like the rebrands of their actual uniforms themselves.
Yeah.
The little shoulder stripes are clean. The jersey font, the number font is clean. You mentioned it from the Lions jerseys that we looked at earlier this week. They got the names on the front of the jerseys. What do you feel about that?
I don't know. Maybe
It's
I'm old
really
school.
weird to me because of how small that font is.
That's kind of what I think with any team that has like numbering or not numbering, like a name right here. I just think it's like if you're gonna put like words in the front of your jersey, like make them pop, not something that's like little right here.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm an old school. Maybe I watch two teams that don't have anything on the front of their jerseys other than Kansas City has a patch right here, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't hate, honestly, the Texans jerseys are the best
Yep.
rebrand ones this off season. I think it
Out of
goes
10, what would you give them?
8.
That's where I was
Because I
around.
love the new home and away jerseys. Love the Reds. The H Towns, I will eventually like. I just need to see them on the field. And
Yeah.
what would be cool, don't know if they'll do it, but you know how the NBA sometimes will make slight tweaks to their court when they have like new jerseys.
Yep.
Maybe they can incorporate something with like a 50-yard line logo or the end zones with these. Man, that would be sick if they could.
That that'd be great. I wouldn't be shocked if they did that. That would look clean for sure. But real quick before we go, I know you're not a um professional wrestling fan, but I gotta ask, did you see anything in the Jacksonville Jaguars draft room last night that looked off?
Mm, no,
Okay.
not that I'm trying to remember. I don't think so.
Okay. So the owner's son is Tony Khan. That's Tony Khan right there.
Hmm.
He's the owner of AEW, which is a competitor of WWE. On Wednesday night, he took a let's see if I can get it here. He took a bump, which is a wrestling move, and it first of all, full disclosure, it looked really bad. But he took this little like pile driver from two guys off the top rope, and people were questioning whether or not he would like follow through with like selling this because he's also on the board for the Jaguars
Hmm.
on if he would like sell this to the point of like wearing something during the draft. And I kid you not, I'm watching the draft last night and I see this man just sitting in the draft room with a neck brace on.
Oh, I did see that. I didn't hear the context behind it though. That's
And I'm
crazy.
like, there is no way this man followed through with what he just went through. Again, staged entertainment that he did not really hurt his neck, especially because he's the owner of that company. I don't think he would have done that if he would have gotten legitimately hurt.
Mhm.
But his dad actually came out. His dad is in the background, the
Mhm.
guy with the
Yeah.
mustache, on that show on Wednesday as well. And everybody was like, if they could carry this over to the NFL draft, that would be literally one of the best things this company has ever done. And here he is sitting with a neck brace on in the draft room. And I was absolutely dying. And my brother was like, "Why are you laughing so hard?" And I was like, "This man is wearing a neck brace and he's committed to the story, man." And I know like
Gotta respect it.
professional wrestling gets hated on, but like that was one of the best moments I've ever seen in draft history, just because only a small few knew exactly what that was. I knew people were tweeting out like, "Why does he have a neck brace on?" And then they found out why. And I shout out Tony Khan, man, and that family for pulling through, or shout out his dad, I guess, for allowing him to even like
Yeah.
continue that story into the draft. But any final thoughts before we sign off?
Nope. Just looking forward to a great rounds 2 and 3 tonight, and then tomorrow rounds 4 through 7 should be good.
Are you a guy that will have that and the NBA playoffs on at the same time, or are you going to have one?
Yes.
You're going to double screen it?
After the Cavs game, I don't want to see another Cavs game for a while. That one was rough. I'm sure we'll talk about that on the Hardwood Convos episode.
Yep. Hopefully we can potentially do one sometime either tonight, tomorrow, or Sunday. So
Mhm.
we'll get something figured out with the hardwood combos. I mean, I would love to talk about how every time the Celtics beat the Heat, the next time they play them, they shoot over 50% from 3-point range, and that's just what you got to accept. So,
Mhm.
but great first round of the NFL draft. We'll see if there's any craziness tonight, tomorrow, and I think Sunday, because it goes through Sunday, right? Just tomorrow. Okay.
Today and tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I thought the draft used to go through Sunday. But yeah, it was a great draft. Not necessarily a ton of shockers outside of the Michael Penix draft pick. We'll see where Cooper DeJean, TJ Tampa, Kool-Aid McKinstry, all those corners go, because there's still a lot of corners available left. And yeah, we'll recap it next week. But for Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Beirman. We'll probably see you guys later this week, either that or on Sunday, to recap a little bit of the NBA playoffs on the Hardwood Combos here on the 515 Podcast Network. But for now, we'll see you later.